That's crazy. I go visit my clients and I get this question over and over again. And I've, this year I've been to roughly 30 clients since mid-December. It's February 25th right now. And I'll continue that pace through September, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I get that question often. And I'd say every 10 clients or so, someone will ask, so what is your day job? What do you do for a full-time living? Do you do this for a full-time living? And it's pretty crazy because the amount of content I put out, we'll put out over 200 YouTube videos this year. We're on pace for that. We put out 198 last year. And the amount of clients I go to, the amount of bookings we have. But I know that not everyone knows what it takes to be a whitetail consultant. So I wanted to give you a glimpse into my life, whether boring or not. I wanted to give you kind of a glimpse, and if you want to go into this profession, I have so many people email me, wonder if they could be a part of this, if they can do it for free with me, hang out with me. It was crazy. Dylan, before I heard him in 2016, he had written an email to me, very nice, very professional, I believe in 2014. So I believe it was 2 years before I hired him. And it was along the lines of a lot of emails I get, but it was, he was just graduating at a wildlife management degree and he was just looking for work. And he wanted to work with me. And it wasn't until I actually hired him and interviewed him 2 years later that he reminded me, do you remember when I sent you that email? And I actually had forgot that he sent that to me. And right away I kind of cringed, oh, did I answer it or not? And he said I did. But you get so many emails, we'll talk about that in a second. But it just shows there's people that want to get into this line of work. And Dylan is living the dream in the whitetail industry. He's carved his niche out. And in order to carve your niche out, I wanted to give you a glimpse into what I've done and what it takes on a daily basis to do what I do. And I'll tell you, going through kind of my daily routine, when I get up in the morning, I'm answering YouTube comments. I try to do that 7 days a week. I answer roughly an hour's worth of YouTube comments a day, 365/7. Now, there are days I miss. There are days that I'm on vacation, that I put my phone down, but it's really hard because I don't like letting those comments go. I've tried over the last several months to let some of those comments go and just try to enjoy the family more, or enjoy sleeping in, or a cup of coffee, doing anything but deer. But it really boils back down to I love to help people. And so if you think about that, with everything that I'm doing, in 2019, I am sure that I answered over 10,000 YouTube comments, and that doesn't count Instagram and Facebook comments. And so literally 12,000, 14,000, I'm not even sure the number of comments that I answered, and that's part of it. That's part of my daily routine. It's what I do. I also wanted to give you a little bit of glimpse. This year in 2019, we're going to be close to right around 125 client days scheduled. That's from the middle of December of 2019 through the middle of September of 2020. That's this year's season. That's every year's season. It goes from middle of December to middle of September. That's about 140 days on the road. Last year, I went to close to 100 clients, right around there, and I was on the road for about 114 nights. And we're sort of stepping it up a little bit more this year. But 140 nights on the road. And I'm able to go to all those clients because I typically work out of one motel room. I take a day off in between my clients. So I might have 4 clients, a day off, then 5 clients. I usually fly to one client a month from February to September, sometimes 2. I believe I'm flying to 2 in March. And so really, if you think about it, on the road a whole lot. And I'm only able to go to all those clients, again, because I have enough clients that I can fit them all into one motel room where we don't travel. People say, do you check out your clients online and see how much they're worth or who they are, if they're famous? And I said, no. We pick a hotel room that I like to stay in, and we start booking clients. We book them out several months in advance, and as long as they're within an hour and a half to 2 hours of that motel room, then I go to them, period. That's it. And then if there's others in that state, I just can't go to them unless I can fit them in that. I don't want to drive 2.5 to 3 hours plus one way to a client. My average client day, so if you look at those 125 client days scheduled, I go to long day clients that are 120 to 200 acres depending on habitat, and Diane, my wife, tries to figure that out. But when I go to those clients, my average day is about 10.5 hours a day, sometimes 12 to 13 with a long day client. The shortest I ever have is under 8 hours, and I think I've gone to clients that were under 8 hours. Out of my last 150 clients in just 2 years, I've probably gone to 5 that have been 8 hours or less. So that's very uncommon. When you get up into that 13-hour range, I've probably been to 10. So I've probably been to more 13-hour client days, and I'm not counting driving, than I have clients that are under 8 hours. I average from a motel, I average 3 hours driving a day. So that's 13 and a half hours between driving and going to a client. That's my average day. And guess what I do in the hotel room before I go to my clients? I get up, I either answer YouTube comments or I release a YouTube video, because we're trying to release 4 videos per week. So that leads into the next thing that I do on a weekly basis is I'm meeting with Dylan Lenz. He does all my videography, photography, and he edits my videos, puts them together. So he's sitting behind the lens right now, and he comes, like today, I have him scheduled for the day. I have him scheduled on the, I might get these wrong, but I believe on the 4th and 5th of March he's coming, maybe 5th and 6th, and then I have him scheduled for March 23rd, and I'm not sure if we have any days scheduled after that, but we schedule out our days about a month in advance because he's very busy too. So we have to coordinate our schedules a long time. We either work by half day or day. When I shoot these videos, I'm creating, typically we can shoot 8 videos in 5 hours, basically a half hour per video. We can't take multiple takes. Usually if I start and I have to start again, it's usually within 5 seconds. Otherwise we just roll with it. There's no take twos, or taking 2 or second take. We're just getting it done and going on to the next one. I have a list of notes for the topics that I want to talk about for that given week, and then we go from there. And then Dylan goes back and he puts them together and works on those videos. So between traveling 140 nights a year like this year, going to visiting 125 client days, and we're still going to put out 4 videos a week, which we missed 10 last year. We had 198 we put out in 2019. Which meant there were 10 videos we didn't put out. And that's not Dylan's fault. That's typically, I just didn't come up with enough content when we had choices, when we had time to do so. So I have a mission this year that I do not want to miss, that'd be 208 videos. So I don't want to fail by 10 next year. Someone look at it, I succeeded by 198, I look at it like I failed by 10. So I want to hit that 208 mark. And that's a big part of it. And so we have the client days, answering YouTube comments, putting YouTube videos out, filming YouTube, and then this year I'll finish probably my 6th book. So I'm always trying to work on a book or 2, finish a book if I can, and putting that out. And then when it comes to September through mid-December, that's my book writing time. We're still putting videos out, and I love to hunt. I love to sit with Diane in the tree stand, even though she doesn't like me to sit in the tree stand with her. But that's all part of it. And then you're working with partners in the industry, and you're trying to satisfy the needs of not only the clients, but the products that you know and love and try to promote, and really try to promote in a non-commercial way. And then of course all the videos and all the comments, and trying to keep up with social media. Now on top of all that, something else I'm adding in 2020 is I'm creating a series of web classes. Those web classes will be 18 to 20 videos each. They total about 8 to 10 hours of total footage and shoot time. They're actually very exhausting to shoot, because a lot of times they're 40-45 minutes of talking about a single subject, but I want to be very thorough. I want people to know how to design their land. I want people to hunt with advanced hunting strategies. And so there's a lot of depth that goes into those, and they're in a logical order, so that instead of the YouTube videos where people are just searching for information and they're looking for smaller bits, this is a complete system. Takes time. That's more time that I have to schedule with Dylan. And so between the 208 videos we're going to put out there, the 125 clients that I'll visit, 140 nights on the road, 36 classroom lessons and web classes that we'll create this year, finishing a book. You can imagine the 10,000 comments on YouTube. It just takes a lot of work. And I'm not complaining. Don't ever think that I'm complaining about this at all. I am very, very blessed to do what I do, and I just wanted to give you guys a glimpse into my personal life and what it takes throughout the year. And this is more than a full-time job. This is a 70, 80 hours, 7 days a week type job. And so very consuming, but at the same time, I love the benefits of being self-employed. I've been self-employed since '99, and being able to create that schedule and work around. That's the dream job, right? To be self-employed, to make a good living, and to be able to have that flexibility to spend time with your family, friends. And from middle of September to middle of December, I hunt, and I hunt a lot, and I finish videos, finish a book, and always working. I answer a lot more YouTube comments during hunting season, especially in the blind. And that's what I'm at right now. Kind of your glimpse into my life and my more than full-time job. In '05 is when I started with my whitetail consultation. I was a real estate appraiser. I could afford to do it on the side. And I'll talk about the conditions that led up to that in a moment. But in 2005, I thought, well, I'll just charge $500 a day and I'll go visit clients and that'll be cool. And what you find quickly is that $500 a day, you really just about lose money. By the time you total in all your expenses, your activities throughout the year. And I'll just give you an example. Let's say you had 100 clients. There's probably 2 or 3 of us, 4 at the most, that could command 100 clients per year in the entire country. They could find that level of whitetail clients. Now, if you could situate those clients like I do right now, where I can go to 8 clients in 9 days out of 1 hotel room, meaning they're all within a couple hours, which is going to be impossible. But if I could have done that to begin with, would have made $50,000. And then out of that 50, I would have taken $350 per client. Out of that, I would have ended up with about $15,000. By the time I finished it, added in the extra expenses of tractors or equipment that I want to use to work in the business, or photography, video cameras, you really end up in the hole very quickly, and that's even with 100 clients. So let's say you expanded that to you're charging $1,000 a day, and you quickly realize the same thing. That's if you could work 8 clients in 9 days out of 1 hotel room, or leave your house and travel to that money within 2 hours. You quickly find that your expenses and your lifestyle and the expenses you need to build your business leave you in the hole. And that's with 100 clients charging $1,000. You might think, well, I can do it for less. Try it. Try doing it on a large scale where you're actually doing it full time. And that's why very, very few whitetail consultants are full time. I have this as a full-time business, and I do everything else as another full-time business. So it's basically like 2. But if you're trying to do this all at one time, you're going to have a really hard time even at that level. Now, if you're getting into the business, and I'll be very frank with this, and I've talked about this before. I went to a Green Bay Deer Classic. I had a booth one time in '05. Maybe it was '06. I can't remember. I think I had 10 clients that year, and 4 of them came from that show. I had 4 clients in '05. In 2007, I had 35, and then I had 50 and above since 2008. So I've been at that level for a long time. But I had someone come up to me, and he was a doctoral candidate for wildlife biology, and gave me his card. And I was a little taken back, and I was a little intimidated by it. He said, I'm going to be your competition. Well, I never heard of him before. Heck, for me, my name wasn't out there that much either. I'd gone to a lot of QDMA meetings, backyard meetings, and branch events, habitat days, field days. But and I had been writing Michigan Outdoors, Quality Whitetails for the QDMA, but at that point it still was not that well established. So I was a little intimidated when he came up. So right away, my thoughts turned towards, where did this guy hunt? How much hunting experience he had? Because that's the true threat. And I'll tell you why in a second. I asked him where he hunted, and his response was priceless. And it really encouraged me, because he said, I've been going to school for the last 7 years. Do you think I've had time to hunt? Right away, I knew that if that was my competition, that type of an individual that just went to school, this was going to be very easy to establish myself. Because if you have that hunting base and you have that advanced hunting skill, and you've shown that you can do it on private land, public land, all on your own, not going to guides, not going to outfitters, not just putting a big buck on a picture, but you've actually learned to hunt on your own, and you consumed yourself with hunting as a passion, your number one passion, outside of God, family, church, whatever it might be, but you've pursued that, then you can carve a niche out, because this is all hunting based. You can't learn this stuff, most of it, in a classroom. Unfortunately, you really can't, because you need to be able to go to a client property. You're designing a hunting plan. You're not just designing a wildlife plan where haphazardly you can walk throughout the property with poor hunting skill, push all the deer off, and expect a good herd. In fact, what you find is the more you know habitat and the less you know hunting, the more problems you create, whether it's for yourself or your client. And what I mean by that is, if you're Habitat improvements are not aligned in a hunting order that allow you to slip on and off the property without spooking deer and without establishing that pattern of daylight use on the property, especially as it gets into the heart of the hunting season. Then any plan that you come up with is going to fail. And that's where, I had a question. It was a weird question. I had someone challenge me, and it might even be a habitat consultant. I really don't know. I don't know a lot of the names of habitat consultants, but he said, I was talking about morning stands and how you get into that stand in the morning, but you couldn't get in there in the afternoon because you might spook deer because it's a bedding area. He asked me, well, aren't you just going to spook those deer on your way out of the stand? Being negative, not trying to absorb anything positive or trying to learn. And basically I proceeded to tell him that obviously if you're there in the morning, you've been hunting there for 4 or 5 hours in daylight, you know what deer are around you if you're a good hunter. You know when you can slip out. You know where deer are already at when you go in there in the morning. They're not there. They're out in the ag fields. They're a long distance away. That's why it's a morning stand. You go in there, you're not spooking deer. At the same time, if you go in there in the afternoon in that same stand, there's a large percentage of the time that you're going to actually spook deer because you don't know where they're at. You can spook them on the way in, way out, they're there. It's a gamble. And you spook them one time, you ruin that stand location for a week or more. When you're in the stand already in the morning, you have that luxury of knowing where the deer are at, and you know when you can slip out between 11 and 1 and get out of there. But the problem with this whole scenario, if you don't have that hunting experience to know what a morning stand is, know what an evening stand is, how your approach can be for a morning stand, why it's a morning stand based on food sources, cover, the depth of cover, all those concepts that I originated and talked about as it relates to hunting properties and hunting plans, then you're not going to be able to design a hunting plan for someone else. If you don't know this stuff on your own, if you can't say this is a morning stand because of this and this is an evening stand because of this is a high value evening stand here, so you need to sit here in the evening versus here in the morning. This is why this is not an all day stand. If you don't know those pieces, how can you ever teach that to someone else? So you have to have that hunting background, and that's the most critical portion. If you can identify a white oak or red oak, yeah, that's kind of important. But if you don't have these concepts of how deer move and live on a daily basis, then you're not going to be able to design something for someone else. I started my business when I was 35 years old, and when I had been hunting for 20 years, I'd been hunting out of state for 12 years alone, starting in Pennsylvania on public land, hunting in public land every year of my life, hunting on small parcels, 2-acre parcels, 5-acre parcels. Because if you can hunt on small parcels and find success, then the big parcels are gravy. You can never take someone that only works on large parcels and have that apply to small parcels. That's not the way it works. Large parcels encompass your mistakes. You can drive a bus to your tree stand, spook all the deer away, but the deer still stay on the land because it's a large parcel. It's not the case in small properties. You spook them off a 30-acre parcel, an 80-acre parcel, a 200-acre parcel, they're not coming back for a while. You ruin your hunt sometimes for 2 weeks or more, sometimes for the entire season. So you have to have that hunting base and know how to hunt property, and you have to have that if you're going to be a whitetail consultant. Once you have the hunting base, once you have that knowledge, once you've worked on your land by yourself for a decade or more, and you've learned these features and you've tried them in different areas, then you might be able to go out to clients and actually visit with clients. But you have to be able to break it down for different personalities, a huge variety of personalities, a huge variety of lands, and be able to break it down and teach those individuals. That's why it's so important in the morning when you meet. I meet for 2 to 3 hours in the morning at breakfast time. It's partly to get to know their land, but we need to get to know each other. We need to get to know your resources, your goals, and do it on a level that I can read what you're thinking and understand your land and know that if that client, if I say you should do this, I need to be able to gauge your personality, know that personality type to say, you know what, I can tell they're not comfortable with that and they're not going to do it. So I need to gauge that on my own, because often a client's not going to come right out and tell you, I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do this. You have to kind of piece it out of them. You have to figure it out by their reaction if they're going to be willing to do it. Because let's face it, if they're not going to do the work and they're not going to follow your plan, then what good is a plan? I went out to a property in North Dakota last week, and they had someone else come out. They're in the industry, somewhat well known, and they didn't feel confident with a plan, so they hired me right away. And they knew the concepts that I taught and that I showed online were the exact opposite of what they found from the other habitat consultant. They had me rewrite a plan, make it up on myself. I told them I didn't even want to look at the whole plan. I really didn't care what they had. But the bottom line is, I believe that person probably left thinking they're going to follow the plan. This is a good plan. I did my job. When really, they obviously weren't confident with it. They weren't confident with the concepts, and they weren't going to follow it. And what good is, just because you took a fee, it's not about just taking the fee. I obviously want to make a living, but you want folks to find success. You want to develop a plan where people are going to find a high level of success. Half my clients are referrals every year. This group of people tell another group of people. I actually prioritize those because I already know that they're bought into the plan and they're in an area I like working in anyways. Those are the best kind of clients because someone's already told them, you need to do this, you need to do that, this is what way we found success, and they're going to follow it. If I knew ahead of time that a client wasn't going to follow it, or they're going to only half follow it, or if they're having a bunch of other consultants on the land and they're just going to piecemeal it together, then I don't want to work with them. I want to be sure that they're going to work, and so you need to be able to understand people's personalities, how you can teach different individuals, how you can relate to them, and how you can know that they're actually going to have confidence and carry the plan forward and make sure that they get a job done, because ultimately you want all of your clients to find success. For that, and with that success, I feel that you have to draw up a plan and discuss it with a client that day. It does you no good if you send that client over a plan 3 weeks from now or 6 months from now. That typically means that you didn't have it in your head by the time you left. And if you didn't have it in your head, you probably weren't able to explain it to the client. If you weren't able to explain to the client, how can they buy in? How can they have confidence in your plan? And when you send it 3 weeks later or 6 months later, there's a total disconnect. Again, going back to, you want clients to follow the plan, because if you have a system that works, you have a set of concepts that you manage by, then, and you've developed over many, many years of asking yourself why on all these whitetail properties, then you're going to want them to follow the plan because you know they're going to find success. You care about your clients. It's a lot more than just taking some money from clients. You want them to find success, or why even in business. You know, being able to deliver that plan that day, that night, that's why it ends up a 10 and a half hour visit. You know, I visit with them because it takes an hour and a half to draw up the plan. Some plans are easier than others, but anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half, and even an hour and 45 minutes. Then after that, plan to spend an hour and a half to 2 hours taking notes with the clients. That's in their own writing. I encourage them to record it and videotape it. I want them to have every aspect of recording that conversation and taking notes that they choose to, because it's a day-long visit. You're servicing them on that day. You're providing that service throughout that day. That's what you're charging for. And so when it comes to the end of the visit, I want to leave that client with a really complete plan that they totally understand. And there's always going to be questions afterwards. And you can imagine, with all the time I'm on the road, all the time I'm with my clients, I have my phone off. I don't even know what my ringer sounds like. Even taking care of current clients, you know, texting back and forth is the best way. Simple questions back and forth. If I have someone that wants a phone call, it might be weeks before I have time where I can actually get on the phone. But again, I've left them with a complete plan when I left. And so it should boil down to just a few texts here and there, a few questions. And for that, a lot of my clients have become personal friends that I've actually enjoyed a relationship with 10 years or more. Ross, my turnkey partner, he's a client from 12 years ago. It's hard to believe, but it's been 12 years already that I visited Ross first. Long time ago, we've become very close friends. Rich, that comes out hunting with me, was a previous client. Corey over in Nebraska. Taryn through Corey, it's a cousin of his. There's so many people that I could recognize. Scott McCabe, there's so many people. Bill Cretons, Bill in Michigan, there's so many people that I can mention. Jonathan, there's just the list goes on and on. I'm going to stop naming because I know I'm going to leave off a whole lot of people. But it's because I get continued texts and questions from them, and they're patient with me, and I answer the texts. We keep moving forward in the relationship, and for that, they're a better steward of the land even going forward years from now. And that's part of it. So after I deliver that, there's follow-up questions. You're going to need to take care of those. But through all this, in order to command clients and be able to attract clients, you're going to need to write. You're going to need to create videos. You're going to need to have a website. Everyone has a Facebook page. Facebook page mean nothing. Facebook is the lowest form of advertising for anything out there. Instagram is a step up from Facebook, and then YouTube and your own website top that. YouTube's probably the number one form of communication and social media engagement, where you can actually not only have people buy into a various product that you're trying to sell or promote, but actually your services too. You need to be able to write, and you need to be able to have a YouTube presence, video presence, because that's your online resume. You should be able to produce 200 pieces of content, whether blog or video. We'll put out 400 this year. I have over 650 articles on my site. We have 450 videos, maybe 470. We're approaching that 1,100 mark in total pieces of content, 1,200 pieces. You need to be able to put out at least 200 pieces of content a year on an annual basis, or you probably don't know your craft enough. You need to be able to break it down into all these different segments so you can teach people. So if you can only put one thing out a week or one thing out a month, that's probably not enough information to establish yourself as someone who's credible in the industry. Because everything you write about, you need to have a depth. You need to set yourself apart. So really immerse yourself in this stuff. And that's where if you just learn this stuff in the classroom, your YouTube channel after a year is going to be about 10, 15, 20 videos long. You're just not going to have enough to talk about because you have to live this. You have to be in the woods. You have to experience it. You're not going to be able to have a presence. When you're writing, when you're creating your YouTube videos, and what I try to do is have a nationwide appeal. You can't just appeal to a certain group in your state or a regional influence. You have to have a national appeal. And that's why I've worked in 27 states so far, almost 1,000 properties since 2005, because I do go out to these other areas. I have my base clients that I go to on my base trips in Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, portion of Minnesota, Illinois, and I cover those areas in those 8 clients in 9 days out of one hotel room. I have that base, but I also fly to clients. And you can never learn this stuff working on a handful of properties over years of time. You need to work on dozens of properties over years of time. You need to work on hundreds of properties. That's the only way you're going to learn. It's only like you might be the master of your fishing pond behind your house, but how does that prepare you for the Mississippi River or the Great Lakes, Lake of the Ozarks, whatever it might be, to fish for bass on or fish for walleye on? You can go out and catch walleye in Canada. I do that all the time. I love to, but I don't know how to fish for them on the Mississippi River. So I have friends that do. I could go follow them, but learning how to read whitetail sign, scout whitetails, find bedding areas, learn the balances of habitat, size of habitat versus small improvements that you need to make in big ag areas versus large improvements, and that balance you need to make in big wilderness or hardwood areas. You need to understand that balance. And you can't learn about whitetails if you only work in your area, if you only have regional appeal. You have to look at whitetails in all areas, because every time you go to another place, every time you go to a site, every time I go to a site, I learn something. I reinforce something. People talk about, you're going to eventually not go to client visits, when you retire. I'm always going to go to client visits until I can't physically move to go on clients, because I love learning about whitetails and I never want to stop learning. I feel like if I'm not going on client parcels, if I'm just working on my own land or someone else's, maybe I work on a dozen properties a year and I'm working on them all year long, I'm not learning much. I'm applying what I know to those parcels. Yeah, you learn a little bit about the parcel, alter stand locations, but unless you're actually actively going to new parcels, scouting new public land, and getting yourself out there. That's why I love to go to Pennsylvania every year. Last year's my 19th season going to Pennsylvania, and shot a nice buck there on public land. I love hunting out there. It's just something to learn, not big bucks, but I love knocking elbows with the public land hunters out there. I try to go to Michigan every year. I hunted public land this year in Michigan, and I've hunted Ohio. I hunted 7 years in Ohio. I love hunting public land because you continually learn. You put yourself out there. Finally, with all of this, it takes a lot to be a whitetail consultant, to really be full-time. You want to be full-time, and you need to learn to read, you need to write, you need to learn how to shoot videos, put that all together, have your own website. I started my first website in 2005, and I think I'm on my 5th one right now. And you just keep having to improve. You have to keep writing, you have to keep putting yourself out there, you have to learn, and you have to let other people know that you've learned. You have to experience this stuff and let other people know you've experienced. I see a lot of online consultations and hunters doing online consults, advertising a half hour, 2 hours, I'll look over your land. Folks, that just means, look at it this way. This year I'm charging an average of $2,600 a day for my clients. Next year it's going to be $3,100 a day. My fly-in trips next year are $74.50 for a 3-day fly-in fee plus airfare. If I'm doing an $800 online consultations because I don't have site visits, I don't have work, I can't schedule 8 clients in 9 days out of one hotel room. Why would I do that? A 2-hour phone call. There's an hour of prep time, an hour of follow-up time, and the phone call turns into 3 hours. I know by experience from doing this 8, 9, 10 years ago. And then at the same time, the accuracy level. Even if you have the experience level that I do, and you've gone to almost 1,000 parcels, and you've looked at these, for you to do a 2-hour, 3-hour phone call, you're not going to be very accurate for prescribing where food plots should go, how habitat should be cut, what habitat looks like. You're not going to be very accurate, and you're doing a disservice to the person, your client that's over the phone. To me, that's no different than when I leave breakfast in the morning with a client. I'm 40 to 50% of the way there. I know where we need to start looking for food, but I need to know how that relates to the habitat, the neighbors, everything else when I go and when I leave breakfast. And I probably have a better handle at breakfast in 2 hours than an online consultation would have in 2 hours, because I'm actually with a group of clients with a bunch of questions for 2 hours, 3 hours long, looking over aerial photos, and you're getting an accuracy level of 40, 50%. I have those web classes. The whole reason I offer those, because I take people through an in-depth look at what I'm looking at, the balances, to assess how they should design their plan. And I'm doing it over 8 to 10 hours of video instruction with 20 videos, and really talking about all the concepts that I've originated and established and gone through with what I think they need to apply to their property. So the web classes, I look at like it's a 60, 70% accuracy. No one's 100%. So even with all the experience I have, all the states I've gone to, all the many properties I've gone to, and I learn at every property. You're going to a property is your ability and your luxury to learn. You can find out what they've done with their food plots in the past, what's worked for them in that location based on their deer herd, their habitat, what's worked, what hasn't worked, their bedding areas that have worked, mock scrapes, water holes, why they've worked, why they haven't worked. You get to soak up this information as a luxury on every property you go to. If you don't go to very many properties a year, you can't learn much at all. If you only stay in your area, you're not going to learn much in any way. And as it relates to online consultations, you're not learning a dang thing on their property by looking at it on the phone. You're only giving them an accuracy level of 40, 50%. Try to avoid falling into that trap, because it just cheapens yourself. It just shows you don't have those clients that you can actually rely on a daily basis. And really, you're worth more than that if you can command going to client properties, and if you can show that you can work out of one hotel room. I used to be, 10, 12 years ago, I worked from northern Michigan to southern Michigan to central Indiana, back over to Wisconsin, back up to the UP of Michigan. And I had days in between there where I just didn't visit clients. It's great to sell someone you charge $5,000 a day or $7,000 a day, but if you have 2 days in between your clients, to me, I just wasted $3,500 or $3,100 that I could have charged those 2 days in between. So I'm actually losing money even though I'm charging more, if that makes sense. You have to have an efficient schedule. That's really important. But that's kind of a look into what I do. I'm blessed. I really am. I'm so thankful. Even to have the YouTube channel, the views, the subscribers that I have on there, the millions of views I get on my website. It's been a journey that if I looked at it in 05, if I looked at it in 95 when I was 25 years old, and someone said, you have to do this, and you could start a business in 05 and get it up to this in 2020, it would have been daunting. I don't know if I would have done it, because I did this because I had a passion for it. You need to have that passion for it too. I had that hunting passion first. And that hunting passion is what's guiding me along the way. It's what's guiding me on client properties. You always think back, if I'm hunting this land and I put this improvement there, is it going to hurt the landowner or is it going to help them? That's how you build. I've grown into this from my love and passion for whitetails and hunting and deer hunting. It's something that I fell into in 1985. No one in my family hunted. We were a fishing family. Kevin, my brother, and I asked for bows for Christmas, and we had to learn all on our own. They had to learn how to gut deer. When I first gutted a deer, I didn't know the difference between a heart and a lung, liver, anything. It was, my brother Kevin was 13. He's dry heaving off in the corner, and that's us, 2 kids basically, gutting our first deer. That passion is driven till today. Again, I am truly blessed. I really am. I am not complaining in any way. I love my schedule. I love that Diane can help me throughout the way. She visits clients with me. She's visiting more clients in the future. But bottom line is, if you want to be a whitetail consultant, and if you want to do this full time, I want you to go in with your eyes wide open, because not only do you need to learn a lot, do you need to experience a lot, do you need to learn how to hunt and all that kind of stuff. You need to have a YouTube channel. You need to have a website. You need to have Facebook, all of that kind of stuff. But you have to have a love and a passion for doing this. And at the same time, by going into this with eyes wide open from what you need to create a career for yourself, the beauty of that is I want you to understand the opportunity that you have with all of this. Whether it's making YouTube money and actually getting money back from that, developing great relationships with partners in the hunting industry, developing great friendships along the way, solid friends from clients that are lifelong friends that you'll hunt with or talk to and communicate with a lot of times for decades to come. It's not just about money, the relationships, the opportunity, there's just so much to it. It's a very rewarding career. Not only should you understand what it takes, but what the opportunities truly are. And that's something I don't talk about enough. I don't mind getting up at 6 in the morning and answering YouTube comments for an hour. I don't mind doing that. Drinking coffee. I turn on the news, watch that at the same time, answer, it's comfortable. I look forward to doing that in the mornings. It's a good way to start the day. I enjoy when I get back to the hotel at night, answering some comments on there. Knowing that people appreciate what you're putting out, knowing they don't appreciate what you're putting out, seeing if it really hits for people, if it hits home. It's such a rewarding career. I hope you can carve out a niche in it. Again, I want you to go into it with eyes wide open. I hope you can appreciate what I do. And most of all, maybe that 1 out of 10 clients that ask me throughout the year, maybe understand what it takes, that this really is a full-time career. And guess what? This really is my day job, and I'm very lucky to have it.